Hey there, it's Pete Thorn. Welcome to another Wednesday Q&A where I answer the questions that you ask me via sending me an email to my Facebook music page, which is facebook.com/guitarnerd. So go there and ask me some questions, and I will try and get to them in one of these Q&A videos. Now, it was my goal to upload one of these videos every Wednesday. I've missed the last 2 weeks. I'm really, really sorry. Thanks for your patience. I just got busy with some work and stuff like that, and but now I'm back to it, and I really will try and do it every Wednesday from here on out. Okay, I'm going to try and answer a few more questions than normal in this video, just because I've been deficient in putting these out. So thanks for your patience. Kevin Strom wants to know. He says he loves my demos. Thanks, Kevin. He says that he's going to ask a question that hasn't been asked before, and I think he's right, and it's a really good question. Since all amps handle pedals and effects differently, how do you compensate if you're using different backline amps? So if your pedal board remains consistent and you got to go do fly dates or play maybe amps around town at different clubs and stuff like that, you're not allowed to bring your own amp. What do you do like when your pedals respond differently with different amps? Well, I can only tell you what I did, which was a few years ago when I was doing some fly dates with a pop artist. I had to use rental amps, and I had to get comfortable with that. So I had my little pedal board out with me on that run, and what I did was when we were rehearsing, I requested a few really, really common backline amps from the rental company that was handling the kind of the in-town rehearsals for the band. So I got a 59 Fender Bassman reissue, the 410 Bassman, an AC30, and maybe a hot rod, one of the hot rod Fenders, something like that. And those three amps are like commonly on any backline rental company list. So I thought, all right, I'm just gonna try all three of these, and I'm gonna see kind of how my pedals react to those three really commonly available amplifiers, and come up with some settings and just kind of maybe write them down or remember them or whatever I did. I found that for the most part the normal channel on the AC30 worked really well as kind of like a neutral clean sound. The top boost channel, if you run certain overdrives and fuzzes and stuff into it, kind of goes crazy. It's a great sound on its own, but it's picky about pedals. So the normal channel tends to work really, really well with a wide variety of drives and things like that. The Bassman was really easy to get a sound on. That's a really terrific sounding amplifier, commonly available. And the clean channel on those hot rod Fender amps is great too. I mean, Mike Landau uses those all the time. So if Mike uses them, then we should be able to use them, right? Because he's not a mere mortal like the rest of us. He gets incredible sounds out of those things. So yeah, that would be my recommendation, is maybe take your pedal board or a few of your select pedals and try them out with, maybe you can go down to like GC or Sam Ash or something like that, or one of your local stores, and plug into a few amps and kind of get an idea of what your stuff sounds like through an amp like that. Or do what I did, and maybe it's a worthwhile investment to rent a few of those amps for a few hours from a local backline company and get your bearings on them, and figure out how to set your pedals for the various different amps. Brett Diaz asks, how would I suggest going about developing a good practice regimen, because he wants to use his time wisely? If you got a bunch of different stuff you want to cover, and you've only got a limited amount of time to do it in, what I would say is maybe use a timer, like on your iPhone, or if you got a different kind of phone, whatever you've got, they've all got timers on them these days. And figure out how much practice time you've got. If you got 2 hours and you need to cover, like, working on this solo from this song and maybe some sight reading or whatever it is that you want to do, divvy up your time and just set your timer on your phone, and when that 15 or 20 minutes is up, move on to the next thing. And everybody's practice regimen is going to be different, so it's tough for me to say exactly what it is that you want to practice and whatnot. I'm not sure, but that would be the best way to make the most efficient use of time, I think, is just use a timer, divvy up all the things you got to practice, and allot a certain amount of time to each thing, and when that timer goes off, move on to the next thing you want to cover. Darlush asks, he says he's a self-taught guitarist, and he never really knuckled down and learned scales and theory and whatnot in the early days. He says this wasn't a problem for a long time, as he was progressing nicely as a predominantly metal guitar player, heavy metal. And at this point, he's getting a little bit older, and his tastes have changed a little bit, and he feels like his, wants to be able to express himself differently through the guitar, and he's somewhat limited. So what I would say is that I've been spending a lot of time recently with some amazing guitar players. Tim Pierce, who I'm doing the Tim and Pete's Guitar Show with, and we've been interviewing these great guitarists for our upcoming shows, like Oz Noy and Josh Smith. And one thing that I noticed is that the guitar players that seem to be able to express themselves the most freely, and just they're thinking of an idea and it's coming out and they're just playing this amazing stuff, they all have some jazz vocabulary. Now, I'm not a jazz player, I'm a total rock bass player. I do have some good blues vocabulary and whatnot, but sort of those improvisational styles like jazz and blues, those guys really have a handle on that stuff, and they really live in that headspace a lot of just coming up with things. And having the vocabulary to maybe hear something. What I mean by vocabulary is that they've really studied things like scales and modes and then studied the great players that are able to improvise using those scales and modes and arpeggios and those types of things. And so those sort of riffs and licks and melodies and ideas and things are just under their fingers at this point. So both those guys, Josh Smith and Oz Noy, they've got courses that are available, I think, online. If you go to Oz's website and just Google Oz Noy, and you'll find his website, or it's Josh's is Josh Smith Guitarist, I think. Pretty sure that's his website. If you just go to their sites, and you'll find links, I'm sure, to their instructional material that's available. I'd say go check out some of that stuff, and try and develop a little bit of that vocabulary, and whatever those guys recommend is what I would do. Both phenomenal guitar players, incredible improvisers. Adnan asks about using Strat-style guitars. He's got a problem with tuning with floating tremolos. He says he's kind of irritated with it. Put new strings on, stretch them out really good on his Strat-style guitar, and that if he does a one-step bend or vibrato, it makes a string fall flat, but a quick dive of the whammy bar brings the string back into tune. Well, the string's binding somewhere, if that's the case. And, on guitars with tremolo systems, or really difficult ones are Gibson-style guitars with 3 on a side headstocks and the strings fan out at the nut. I always have problems with the string getting, stuck in the nut on those. So the best thing you can do is really just some sort of lubricant on every single area of the guitar where the string is making contact. So I recommend the Big Ben's nut sauce stuff. I use that stuff religiously, especially on 3 on a side Gibson style guitars, and I even use it on some of my Surs and things that have tusk nuts and nuts that are supposedly sort of self-lubricating. I'll still use a bit of that Big Ben stuff, and I swear it helps even on those guitars. Certainly it helps on Gibson style 3 on a side guitars, putting a little bit of that stuff in the nut slots. And then some people recommend a little bit on the bridge saddles too. Just anywhere where that string's making contact. When you do a bend, if the string isn't coming back into pitch, and then drop the whammy bar and then it comes back into pitch, it means it's binding somewhere. So all you can do is really try and alleviate that as much as possible. On a Strat style guitar or Tele style guitar, the other thing you can do is install some locking tuners, and that really tends to help. Locking tuners alleviate the wrap of the string around the post. The string can just go right through the post, through the hole in the tuning peg, and then you lock it down, and there's no winds around the post or anything. So yeah, sometimes when you get the winds around the post of the tuning peg, just the fact that the string is wound up there and there's a little bit of play in the string, that can seem to affect things. So locking tuners really help. That's basically my suggestion. Stretch out the strings really good, use locking tuners, lubricate every area where the string is making contact, including the bridge and the nut. That's the best you can do, really. Next question is from Mark Cooper. He wants to know how much of my workflow do I do myself? So like he says on Guitar Nerd, did I track, mix, and master it myself or send some of that out? Guitar Nerd, I mostly tracked myself. There's a lot of programmed drums on Guitar Nerd, so I did all that myself. In the case of a couple songs like Homage, I recorded that at my friend, I recorded the drums and bass at my friend Toss Panos' house. And Ozzy O'Donnell's engineered the drums on that, I remember that. I did drums on a song called Big Mistake at my friend Blair Cinta's place, and so he kind of set up the drum mics and everything for that. But other than that, I mixed 7 songs on the album myself. Now, I was really, really fortunate to have the great Bob Clearmountain mix 3 songs, which were Homage, Big Mistake, and 10th Street. and he did such a beautiful job on that. And so I think those are definitely the best sounding songs on the album. But I learned a lot in the process of mixing the other songs myself. And, you know, it's one of those things where I wish I could go back and do it again, because I've learned a lot since then. So I'll have that opportunity, I guess, on my next record. But when it comes to my demo videos, I do absolutely everything myself, basically. I've had a little bit of editing done by other people, but for the most part, it's me, you know, sitting there writing a song, coming up with a guitar part, you know, tracking it myself, getting the tones, engineering it and everything, tracking it myself, and I'm videoing myself, you know, doing the takes. And when I'm done tracking the entire song, you know, then I've got to mix it myself, and then bring all the video footage and everything else into Final Cut Pro, you know, lock the video up with the audio and do all that stuff, and then video edit. So yeah, I do all that by myself, basically. It's a lot of work. It takes a second. You know, and definitely developing a flow and kind of a workflow that makes sense is really, really helpful. An easy studio setup. It's part of why I use impulse responses a lot for guitar tones these days, because alleviating that, having to mic a guitar amp and get the mic in just the right place and all that stuff, really helps speed up my workflow. If I know I can get a great mic'd cabinet sound instantly, I'm going to do that, because it's like, why spend the time, you know, if you don't have to. But yeah, I do a lot of stuff myself. I should mention, on Guitar Nerd, mastering was done by a terrific mastering engineer up in Washington State. His name is Ross Nyberg, so you can seek him out if you need some good mastering done. He did just a terrific job. He was a guy that I met on the Gear Page forum, and he's a guitar player, but he's also a really good mastering engineer with a very professional mastering studio and all that. And I love what he did on the record. He did just a great job. So I highly recommend him if you guys need any mastering done. To really take your music to the next level. It really does make a difference. You know, logistically, if you record a CD or something like that, there's, you know, a lot involved in mastering beyond just how the record sounds. I mean, there's track sequencing, and then there's putting codes on tracks and things like that I don't understand, so that when they're delivered to the manufacturing plant, all that stuff is correct, and it's what they want to see. You know, if you're having, I had Oasis do my CD replication and that kind of thing. Yeah, there's just, I really recommend having professional mastering done. It'll really get your records, you know, sounding as good as it possibly can, and able to compete out there with whatever else is, you know, on iTunes or on the radio or whatever these days. Yeah, pro mastering. Check out Ross Nyberg. Bill Francis says that his 11-year-old son is in the EVH Tone Chaser. He's into the Van Halen tone. Isn't that cool that, like, people still, you know, are fascinated by Eddie's sounds? I think that's so cool. So he's got the 5150 pedal, and he liked the videos that I did for that pedal. He says that he's looking for a more vintage tone, his son is. Can I offer some advice on how to EQ it to kind of get those sounds? Well, the first thing I'd say that's very important with the 5150 pedal is set your amp up for a neutral kind of clean sound. The 5150 pedal has a very big sound, so it's got lots of bass and lots of, you know, sizzly top end. So if your amp is set with too much treble or presence, or if you've got too much bass going on, it's going to be woofy, you know. Too much treble or presence on the amp sound, and the pedal could be a little piercing, you know. So set up your amp for a nice neutral clean sound, and then when you run that pedal into it, it's really going to do its thing and sound great. With the EQ, I found the best settings on the pedal were anywhere between, say, 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, and, you know, you just need to kind of seek out the range in there where it sounds good to you. Very subtle. The EQ is powerful, so just very subtle movements between like 11 and 1 o'clock, and that's how I used it, and I got the sounds that I got in the videos I did. Also, keep the gain down below noon, say down around 11 o'clock, and that would be good for that kind of early Van Halen thing. John Maneka wants to know what kind of studio monitors I use. So he says he's got two different rooms, where he's got a smaller room and he's got a pair of 5-inch KRK style monitors in there, and then he's got a bigger room. I'll tell you what I use. I mean, for years now I've used the Atom A7s in my studio as my main monitor, and I'm very comfortable on that monitor. I just know how you know, everything is supposed to sound on them, basically, and especially guitar. I'm comfortable with mixing on them, and I know what guitar sounds like on them, if it's too bright or too dark or what. And it's all about whatever you get accustomed to, I think. It doesn't matter whether you're mixing on $200 set of speakers or $5,000 set of speakers. If you can't, if you don't have like some bearing on how things are supposed to sound on that particular speaker, then you're in trouble. So I just tended, to tend towards those Atom speakers, and really got comfortable with them. Having said that, here in my home setup here, I've got some Dyne Audios, and they're the new BM5 Mark IIIs. They sound really good too. I had them in my studio, my main studio space for a while, and I would just go between the Atoms and these. These are a little darker sounding, especially in the sort of upper mids, and they have a little bit more low mids and all the way down to kind of deep bass. For a small monitor, they're very full sounding. Great sounding speakers, just a little bit different color. And I also have a set of Tenoys, the Reveal speakers, the little cheaper ones, in my studio, and I have them on a speaker switcher so I can go between the Atoms and the Tenoys. Now, having said all this, I actually just hooked up with the people at Barefoot, who make some really, really well-regarded high-end monitors these days, with people like Chris Lord-Alge and Butch Vig and all kinds of guys using them. So I'm really, really excited about that, because I'm going to get a pair of the Barefoots for my studio. Now, they're a bigger speaker. I'm going to need to put them on stands and put them back a little bit in the room, and they just sound absolutely amazing. And instantly, I could hear what was going on them, and it felt comfortable to me when I checked them out. So really excited to get involved in that. The only limiting thing with my A7s and whatnot is that I don't have a sub, so hearing really deep bass and things like that is somewhat it's a little bit of a crapshoot, a little bit of a guessing game, I guess. Although they do sound great. So yeah, excited to get into the Barefoots and check those out as well. Headphones, standard for many years now for me has been these MDR 7506s. They're Sony's. They're around $100 a pair, I think. And once again, I just know what they sound like. They're kind of a bright, sort of a little bit hyped in the top end, especially, sort of headphone, but I'm comfortable on them. And yeah, there's many headphones that sound dark to me, actually. I don't know kind of what's going on them, but these I've just gotten used to, I guess. Martine wants to know, what do I think about the Tim Pierce overdrive from Rocket Pedals? I think it's awesome, actually. I have it on my little board now, my smaller pedal board. Really, really good sounding pedal. Just a very natural sort of amp-like overdrive coming out of that pedal. It's got a great boost in it on the big knob that's supposed to kind of replicate the power section of Tim's Nailer amp, which he always uses that Nailer amp on a lot of stuff, and he's well known for using that. Anyway, yeah, it sounds great. Really, really terrific overdrive. You kind of can't go wrong with it. He also asked what I think about the lead boots. I love that pedal too. I mean, there's a video of me on YouTube playing the melody from "'Cause We Ended as Lovers" with the lead boots pedal, and I think I nailed the Jeff Beck tone, frankly, with that pedal. It sounds great. The Rocket pedals are great. Kind of like, I don't want to say underrated, because they're kind of universally well regarded, but more people should check them out, because they just make really, really cool stuff and kind of unique. And I like that, and pedal makers, doing unique things. And they also support players that aren't necessarily like rock stars. We're more like the guys behind the scenes, or studio players, or things like that. Like, for instance, with the Tim Pierce pedal. And Tim absolutely should have his own signature overdrive. Nobody, gets better guitar tones or knows tones like Tim. So really great that Rocket, got together with him and collaborated on that terrific pedal. So that's my glowing recommendation for the Tim Pierce Rocket overdrive. Jerry Jaborik wants to know what pickup I used in the Carl Martin Plexitone video. Jerry, I'm not sure which one you mean, because I've done 3 videos for the Plexitone. Well, you do say the gold pedal, but there's 2. There's the low gain version and the standard version. So let me think. In the video I did way back in 2012 for the standard Plexitone, in the song I'm playing my black Les Paul Custom, and at the time it had a WB Habanero bridge pickup, which is like an Alnico 5 sort of slightly overwound PAF style pickup. That company I don't think is around anymore making pickups, but that pickup does sound great. Kind of a hot PAF kind of thing. What is it similar to? I would say probably maybe like, I don't know, because it's Alnico 5. You could try a Sur SSV or Duncan Pearly Gates or something like that. It might be in the ballpark. I think, is Pearly Gates Alnico too? Anyway, I don't know. But yeah. So that's what was in that guitar. Now, if you're talking about the low gain version of the Plexitone, God, what guitar did I play in that video? I'm gonna have to go check right now. Okay, so I just went and looked at the low gain version of the pedal, the video I did for that, but I realized that you asked this question on January 3rd, and I didn't even upload that video till January 8th. So you must have been talking about the old video that I did back in 2012. But since I checked, I'm using my Yaren guitar in the low gain video, and it's got Gil's pickups in it. He winds them, so it's an Alnico 4 PAF style pickup in the bridge. Great sounding pickup. Okay, I think I've got this name right. It's Gil Harem is asking if I ever listen to jazz players. He says he knows I'm not a jazz player. It's not my specialty. But do I ever listen to some of those guys and get ideas harmonically and rhythmically just to hear anything out of my comfort zone? Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was mentioning earlier to check out Oz and and Josh Smith. I hear guys all the time that I'm like, oh my God, what is that? I should get into that. And I love going to see players like Mike Landau here in town when he plays. I'm a huge fan, and it just really helps to go see anything that's outside of your comfort zone, but that you can appreciate, and then maybe get re-inspired or reinvigorated to think about your own playing or your own music in a different way. Highly recommend it. Yeah, definitely, it's something I do. Shiloh is a guy from Canada, just like me, and he says he's wondering about the new guitar in my Q&A and Sir video demos. It looks like a two-tone standard, and he's wondering if we're going to be releasing a signature model in the future, and is it a prototype? We sort of built it actually to demonstrate the Thornbucker pickup, which is a signature thing. So we loaded it up with the Thornbuckers, but it's not really a signature model or anything like that. You can order a model of that same spec from Sir if you were to get in touch with your Sir dealer or Sir directly and ask, hey, what is that guitar all about? What are the specs? They've got the specs on it and they know what it is, and you could order a guitar exactly like that if you want to, sort of like an artist spec thing. But they don't really do the signature guitar thing, and yeah, we're not don't have any plans for anything like that. It is a very, very cool guitar. It's the even C slim neck shape, 10 to 14 radius with 6105 style frets, and it's mahogany neck, Indian rosewood fingerboard, mahogany body, maple top, with the Thornbucker pickups and the 510 bridge with vintage style saddles. I really prefer the vintage saddles. So I think that guitar's got the vintage style saddles, I'm pretty sure. Locking tuners. Yeah, just a terrific guitar, and I really love the understated black with the red back. I have to make a confession, which is that it's funny, like Ian Thornley got a guitar from Sir a long time ago, and he got a red back on his with a black top. His is candy apple red on the back. And I swear I had forgotten about that guitar. But somewhere in the back of my mind, a couple of years later when we were coming up with that guitar, I was like, yeah, I want to do a red back with a black top. And I must have somehow been thinking about the guitar, Ian's guitar. I swear I didn't rip it off the idea from him, but I had seen one that he had built with a similar sort of color scheme. And he saw me one time and he was like, hey man, yeah, cool idea on that guitar with the color and everything. And I was like, oh God, that's right, you have one like that. Okay, there's a fellow from Taiwan that's asking me about comparing the Axe FX2 and the Line 6 Helix. He says he'd like to use it for recording at home and to take it to live gigs. Which one would I prefer? This is the most common question I probably get, is comparing two pieces of gear against one another. And I think I've even already addressed it in a Q&A video. And the answer is, I don't know. You got to try them out for yourself. Especially with the modeling things, it seems like people fall into different camps. They like the Kemper, they like the Axe FX, they like the Helix. I like them all. And I think that they all sort of excel at different things. For example, let's take the Kemper. Well, with the Kemper, you can take your amp collection and copy it and put it inside the box. And that's something that you can't actually really do on the other units. The Axe FX has a really, really wide range of amps and effects available, and it's kind of a tweaker's paradise as far as getting in and really getting into the nitty-gritty details and tweaking things. And it's got a bunch of unique features that kind of set it apart from the other modeling units. The Helix is obviously a floorboard style unit that allows you to do all kinds of different stuff. It's an impulse response host. It's got effects loops built in, which is really cool, because if you want to use like some of your favorite pedals with it. That's just easy to do. None of the other units have that. So my answer is, look at the different units and look at what you need and what features are important to you, and then go with the one that seems to match up with what your expectations and the features that you need in the course of your work. And that's the best thing that I can recommend. Okay, last question for today is from David Brazo. He says he's writing from Italy, and he's wondering, why did I replace the pickups in my 66 Telly with the Ron Ellis pickups? Did I find it better than the ones that were in it? He's got a 67 Telly, so he's just wondering. Well, I'll tell you what happened with that guitar. It sounded good when I got it. Kind of typical for the mid-60s pickups. They're very, very microphonic. And I wanted to be able to play the guitar live on stage. And when I would use it with any kind of gain, it was like, I was getting that microphonic squealing. Now on old Tellys, the bass plate on the pickup can tend to get kind of malformed, and that causes a feedback, evidently, from what I understand. And it's a very difficult thing to fix. So, I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull all the electronics on the guitar, and I'll keep it all stock and all that stuff. I'll just have to break a couple of the solder joints. And I'm going to reload it with all NOS parts, caps and everything like that. And so, yeah, I also replaced the electronics in the guitar, but it's got all old pots and old cap and all that on the tone pot. And the guitar came with that, I don't know what they call it, but it was the original Leo Fender style wiring, where you go to the neck position on the guitar and it's super dark with a capacitor on it. I think he thought, like, for fake bass sounds or something like that. And then when you go to the middle position, it's the neck pickup by itself, and then you go all the way down and it's the bridge. So you can't get that middle Telly thing that everybody wants. So I thought, all right, of course I'm gonna do the modern wiring so I can get neck, middle, bridge positions. So I did that, and yeah, then I got the Ron Ellis pickups. That was the next stage. Now Ron's pickups I was seeing all this stuff on the net about them, and how everybody was just saying that they were kind of the be-all end-all for Telecaster single coil sounds. So he's a super nice guy, and I hooked up with him and drove down and met him because he's not too far from where I live. And he made this fantastic set of pickups for me. And I mean, the neck pickup in that guitar is absolutely the best Telly neck pickup I've ever heard. It kind of sounds like a Strat, really. Really super usable, just a wonderful, wonderful sound. The middle position is wonderful, and then the bridge is just great as well. The guitar just sounds killer. So I don't feel like I'm missing out on something by not having the original pickups at all in there. Original bridge pickup did sound really good, but a little on the weak side and super microphonic once again, so it wasn't really usable live. So yeah, that's my answer. Ron just does he does incredible work, and be sure to check him out if you're looking for really exceptional Telly pickups. I've never checked out any of his other pickups, but I hear great things about them as well. All right, thanks for checking out my Wednesday Q&A. Please come back to see me next Wednesday for more answers to your questions. And hit subscribe if you haven't. Come back and see me for more videos real soon. I am Pete Thorn. Have a great week. See ya.